Have you ever paused to examine your own existence, your profession, your bank balance, and felt that familiar tightening in your chest, as if something whispered that wealth isn't meant for you? As if, deep down, a subtle voice echoed, "I'm not worthy. I'm not capable. I wasn't made for this." Countless individuals remain trapped by this invisible, yet concrete, barrier that prevents them from seeing their own potential. And the most peculiar thing is that, often, they don't even realize the root of the problem isn't their job, the economy, lack of time, or opportunities, but rather a deeply ingrained belief from childhood, the conviction of unworthiness. This is where it all begins. Because before life can grant you a yes, you must stop saying no to yourself. And I know what it's like to live with that feeling. I understand waking up convinced that you have no worth, that you lack aptitude, that your future is set on a downward path. I know this because I was exactly in that position. In my youth, I had no vision for the future. Absolutely none. I didn't excel in my studies. I lacked discipline. I couldn't identify any talents in myself. I dropped out of school prematurely, and then bounced between various jobs, working at gas stations, in mechanic shops, taking temporary gigs that came and went without a clear purpose. I had no aspirations, lived immersed in a restricted and narrow mindset, and was deeply convinced that success was something reserved for others, for individuals who were more qualified, more insightful, more predisposed to it. And perhaps, right now, you feel this way. You look around and see people progressing, expanding, buying homes, traveling, enjoying life with serenity, and you wonder, why them and not me? Where, after all, did I go wrong? And, more importantly, why do so many believe that wealth is for a select few, joy is for others, and a fulfilling life is the prerogative of those born with a silver spoon? Because most people assimilated destructive, yet implicit, messages early on: that's not for you, don't aim too high, money belongs to the rich, those who seek too much eventually fall, bliss is risky. It's as if we grew up absorbing more about limitations than opportunities. And this shapes our self-perception. And self-perception always prevails. No one triumphs externally without first overcoming internal barriers. When you look in the mirror and don't see your worth, the universe will reflect precisely that same image back to you. Wealth isn't found in the bank first, it resides in the mind first. Psychological research indicates that a significant portion of humanity, even when presented with genuine opportunities for progress, sabotages themselves psychologically because they don't consider themselves worthy. A study published by Harvard University found that individuals with a low sense of monetary worth tend to shy away from promotions, undervalue their work, decline offers, and fear earning more. Have you noticed that a significant number of people give up before even starting? And often, this isn't due to a lack of ability, but rather an excess of hesitation. How many times have you let an opportunity slip away because you judged yourself not good enough? How many times did you not ask for a raise because you anticipated, my boss will think that's absurd? How many times did you fail to demand payment for your work out of fear of what others might think? I performed such acts for years. Until the day someone offered me a book that transformed my life, Think and Grow Rich Star. I read it without fully understanding it, I admit. However, I assimilated the essence. My successes weren't small due to life's complexity, but rather due to the limitation of my self-perception. On that occasion, I uncovered something I never abandoned: all reality changes when self-perception shifts. And perhaps, currently, you also need to hear this. Perhaps life isn't denying you fortune. Perhaps you are denying fortune to yourself. And I want you to reflect on this honestly. When was the last time you truly believed you deserved a great life? When did you wake up declaring, "Today I will make life take notice of me"? Are you living what you aspire to, or what you believe you deserve? And I will reveal something to you that might cause discomfort, but is transformative. Most people don't fail on life's journey. They simply stop at a level far below what they are capable of. And you have the power to change that. I am certain you can. Because if I managed to ascend from a hopeless young man, without an academic degree, performing tasks that earned a few dollars each week, to build an existence worth many millions of dollars, without a legacy, without luck, without easy path, you are capable too. You don't need to become a different person. You just need to start discerning who you truly are. The universe will only grant you what you consent to receive. And accepting less than you're worthy of is the first indication that your fortune begins within you. The moment I began transforming my life, I realized something most people never notice: we've been conditioned to have modest ambitions. From an early age, we hear phrases like, "Money doesn't buy happiness," "Those who aim too high often get hurt," "It's better to have a little with stability than a lot with danger." And, imperceptibly, these sentences become thought patterns. And thought patterns create consequences. You never see someone with a scarcity mindset enjoying abundance. And often, the captivity isn't in finances, but in the mind. People assume the obstacle is a lack of opportunities. It isn't. It's the absence of internal permission. It's the fear of evolving. It's the guilt of prospering. It's the conviction that fortune only reaches those with luck, wealthy ancestry, connections, certifications, or something they never possessed. But the reality is, abundance doesn't select individuals. Abundance selects the state of mind. And I uncovered this in a painful way. I recall one particular phase when I worked as a first responder, waking up early, feeling exhausted, earning a few dollars each month, and perceiving myself as an insignificant being. I observed colleagues who were more motivated, others buying property, some discussing projects, trips, financial investments, and I felt insignificant. Not insignificant due to a lack of physical skill, but insignificant because my self-perception was minuscule. One day I paused, looked at myself, and pondered, what choice have I made that led me precisely to this point? This completely alters one's perspective. Because when you admit that no one reaches their current condition without their own contribution, you discover that you are equally capable of choosing a different path. At that moment, I still didn't know the method, but I was convinced that persisting in the situation I was in would be a sentence. And perhaps you find yourself at this point currently. Perhaps you know you can do more, but don't know where to start. Perhaps you wake up daily convinced that you came into the world to subsist, not to prosper. And allow me to express something clearly: if you perceive that your existence isn't in its rightful place, that premonition is already proof that your essence is calling you to a higher level. However, there's a difficulty: most of humanity cannot act because they've never learned to reflect. They merely react. They wake up, fulfill obligations, toil, solve problems, go to bed, and repeat everything the next day. And they call this existence. However, this is mere subsistence. True existence manifests when you take command. When you determine your desired destiny. When you understand that abundance begins as a mental representation and subsequently materializes on the tangible plane. Currently, studies even show that individuals with well-defined purposes have significantly higher probabilities of achieving high levels of income, emotional balance, and mental sanity, compared to those who live aimlessly. A vast survey in the business sector revealed that professionals who intentionally document their goals increase their chances of realizing them by over 70%. Now I ask, do you have clear purposes or merely undefined aspirations? And it is at this point that many become stagnant. They aspire to earn more, but don't set a value. They desire a better life, but don't define how it looks. They aspire to autonomy, but spend their existence saying, "I don't have time," as if time were a surplus that needed to appear for them to then live. That's not how it works. Life rewards those who make a resolution. And resolution isn't just about thinking. Resolution is acting even with fear. I recall the moment I decided to leave the fire department. No one understood. Some mocked. Others deemed it arrogance. I myself almost faltered on several occasions. But there was something within me that declared, if you remain here, your existence will end before it even begins. I had no formal education, no experience, no financial reserves. But I possessed a resolution. And a resolution carries more weight than a certificate. And that resolution propelled me to launch my first venture. That venture, in its first year, yielded more than my entire compensation from previous endeavors. And it wasn't by chance. It was a complete transformation of who I was. Many people look at successful figures and think, they had advantages I don't possess. Let me tell you about one person, Jim Carrey. Before he became famous, He lived in poverty, resided with his family in a trailer, suffered from melancholy, and spent nights silently gazing at the stars. One day, he decided to write himself a check for $10 million, post-dated for 5 years in the future. He kept it in his pocket and, every day, envisioned himself not as he was, but as he aspired to be. Do you know what happened? After 5 years, he earned precisely that amount for the movie, Dumb and Dumber. He changed his self-perception before transforming his reality. He didn't wait for the world's confidence, he trusted himself first. This isn't coincidence. It's a rule. You get what you believe you deserve. If you appreciate this material, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes beyond simply boosting the video. It's what vitalizes this space, allowing me to offer more teachings, insights, and impactful content like this. Every like, every new subscriber, every share signals to the platform that this content is transforming individuals. And as more people reach it, more lives are changed. So, if this recording is already prompting you to think differently, express your support now. And I want to present you with a short challenge. Tonight, before falling asleep, take a piece of paper and write down what your life would be like if you truly believed you were worthy of progress. Not in its current state, but how it could unfold. And for 7 uninterrupted days, recite it aloud every morning. You'll be surprised by the change it generates. Because when your mind shifts, your universe transforms in sync. When an individual believes they are unworthy of prosperity, they don't just act in a restricted way, they begin to construct a reality that reaffirms that limitation. It's as if they put a darkened lens over their eyes and start seeing only obstacles, hindrances, scarcity, and deprivation. Scientific research notably validates this. Studies in cognitive psychology demonstrate that the human brain, when instructed to embrace a belief, begins to sift reality to find evidence that corroborates it. Put another way, if you assume life is arduous, unfair, if you presuppose that capital is limited, that ascending is almost unattainable, your mind will seek to validate that perspective daily. For this reason, so many dedicate themselves, toil, struggle, and yet remain stagnant. It's not the absence of dedication. It's the nature of the dedication. Because when the mind is conditioned to insufficiency, it makes you expend vast energy to stay in the same place. That's why countless individuals get up early, work a full day, take on extra shifts, but despite everything, persist in lamenting the lack of progress in their lives. Have you ever observed someone like that? Perhaps you even fit the description. Bills arrive, funds run out, the month rolls on, and the person reiterates, "It's impossible. It's not for me. Life is just like this." In how many situations have you found yourself accepting scraps because you were convinced you had no other option? How many times did you refuse an opportunity because you thought you weren't capable, weren't good enough, didn't belong in that environment? Now imagine the effect of this over 1 decade, 2 decades, a complete lifetime. You believe you don't deserve, and existence complies. I recall a period when I observed successful individuals and felt a mixture of reverence and disappointment. I would ask, how do they achieve that? What do they have that I lack? And on one occasion, I understood, they don't possess something different, they are something different. They reason in a particular way, feel uniquely, perceive themselves differently. And everything transforms when you change the way you see yourself. Prosperous people behave as if they already are, even before their successes manifest. They express themselves uniquely, move distinctly, deliberate with varied perspectives. Those who don't believe in their worthiness, hesitate. Question. Postpone. And procrastinating is the most discreet way to give up. A well-recognized study in the field of behavioral economics reveals that individuals afraid of earning more tend to undermine their own professional performance. They decline invitations, don't apply for higher positions, avoid negotiating salaries, and often produce below their potential just to avoid standing out. Do you understand the magnitude of this impact? The person doesn't fail due to incapacity, they fail because they are convinced they shouldn't. And this belief generates tangible consequences. Prominent public figures also experienced this circumstance. Oprah Winfrey recounted being raised hearing that individuals like her had no place in spheres of power, that a black, humble woman should remain in her station. And do you know what happened? She started internalizing that in childhood. However, at a certain point, she adopted a singular determination: my place is wherever my aspirations propel me. And by changing that perspective, the world granted her space. Her narrative isn't about luck, it's about intrinsic self-permission. When you modify your self-perception, the entire cosmos begins to align. Pause and consider, what image do you cultivate of yourself in the present? Do you see yourself as a competent, gifted, deserving being, or as someone struggling to maintain balance and avoid collapse? When you observe your accomplishments, do they align more with someone who trusts in victory or with someone who merely seeks to persist? Be honest. This revelation can be painful, but it also has the potential to emancipate. For everything begins when you understand that your external existence mirrors your inner life. You attract to yourself what you believe you deserve. If you are convinced you are worthy of scarcity, scarcity will manifest. If you believe you are deserving of the peak will begin to be attracted. Not by some mystical force, but because your way of acting transforms. Individuals who believe they are worthy of abundance make choices that build that abundance. Those who see themselves as undeserving, reject opportunities before they even arise. And if you're receptive, I want to present you with a new challenge. Over the next 7 days, whenever an opportunity arises, no matter how small, ask yourself, what would a person who is certain they are worthy of prosperity do at this exact moment? And proceed in that manner. It might be requesting a raise. It might be setting a fair price for your service. It might be sending that resume you've held onto for several months. It might be diving into a new study. It might just be accepting a compliment without demeaning yourself. This simple exercise begins the restructuring of the mind. For behavior shapes identity just as identity shapes behavior. Most individuals spend years waiting for the feeling of self-confidence to initiate an action. The secret is precisely the opposite: you act, and confidence emerges afterward. When I left the fire department, I felt terrified. But if I had waited for the initial courage to manifest, I would still be there right now. Existence rewards those who decide, not those who postpone. And you have already procrastinated too much. The ideal day to make a change was yesterday. The second best is today. There's a point in one's journey where an individual begins to notice that it's not capital they lack, it's self-permission. The person even expresses a desire to flourish, but, deep down, experiences guilt, apprehension, embarrassment, or hesitation. It's comparable to someone driving a vehicle, pressing the accelerator and the brake simultaneously. And this intrinsic antagonism exhausts, fatigues, debilitates, and creates the sensation that, no matter how hard you try, you never advance. Have you ever experienced something like that? Working arduously, dedicating yourself intensely, giving your maximum, and still feeling stuck in an endless cycle. This isn't coincidence. A vast portion of humanity isn't battling external circumstances, but rather their own essence. Contemporary psychological science calls this cognitive dissonance. When what you aspire to and what you presume yourself destined to possess collide. For example, you wish to earn more money, but believe you don't deserve it. You yearn for a superior existence, but feel remorse imagining yourself in prosperity. You seek success, but an inner voice whispers to you that it's for others. Guess which side prevails? The most deeply rooted. Human choices are influenced more by convictions than by desires. Desire is rational. Conviction is emotional. And emotion always predominates. This is the explanation for why so many exhaust themselves at work and yet remain entangled in a cycle of deprivation. They alter the energy applied, but not the source. And when the seed is programmed for the minimum, the final result can never be substantial. I recall facing this crossroads when I started my first venture. I was earning more in a single month than I had previously in 6 months. It was stimulating, but equally terrifying. I remember that, in the early stages, upon seeing that financial volume, a part of me felt uneasy. I found myself asking, am I moving too fast? Do I truly deserve this? I had never known abundance before. My entire life had been defined by scarcity. And almost instinctively, I began to undermine my own successes. I became less bold, less innovative, less decisive in my dealings. My self-perception simply hadn't caught up with my new reality. This phenomenon affects millions of people. A fascinating study from the University of Chicago revealed that many high achievers, upon reaching an income level surpassing their family's historical standard, unconsciously begin to self-sabotage in an attempt to return to emotional stability. It's as if their own minds dictate, too much money doesn't align with who you are. Consequently, without even realizing it, individuals start to procrastinate on decisions, settle for less than they deserve, shy away from risks, suppress their own opinions, and, in extreme cases, abandon opportunities that were already secured. Have you ever witnessed a similar situation? A promotion declined because someone feared taking on leadership. A highly capable company that never thrived because its owner was afraid to set higher prices? A top-tier professional who never truly asserted themselves. It's challenging, yet it's the reality. It's not enough to possess skills. It's not enough to have knowledge. It's not enough to have opportunities. It is crucial to have a self-perception that is in harmony with the future you aim to build. Without it, everything falls apart, sooner or later. And history unequivocally demonstrates this. Have you seen what happened to countless public figures who achieved fame prematurely? They had celebrity, fortune, multi-million-dollar deals, that's many millions of US dollars, and global admiration, yet they lacked the psychological foundation to cope with that reality. Britney Spears serves as an illustration. An entire life in the spotlight of success, a fortune of many millions of US dollars accumulated, yet internally, the burden was heavier than her self-image could bear. The consequences: public breakdowns, mental health struggles, impulsive decisions, the loss of autonomy over her own life. This highlights something critical: it's not the money that ruins or builds, but rather the level of self-perception that comes with it. When life progresses faster than the intellect, an individual crumbles. When the mind develops more quickly than life aligns. Now, I want to pose a simple yet powerful question to you. What kind of life could you emotionally sustain right now? Not the one you aspire to, but the one your current self-perception would allow. If you were to receive hundreds of thousands of US dollars tomorrow, how would you behave? A mind accustomed to scarcity becomes disoriented in abundance. However, a mind equipped for vastness transforms every small sum into expansion. Growth begins first in cognition, and only then manifests in the outcome. Look around. How many people do you know who say, "If I just had more money, my life would be in order"? The truth is, when a larger sum finally comes their way, a bonus, compensation, an inheritance, a work settlement, the entire amount dissipates in a few weeks or a few months. Why? Because they haven't transformed internally. Life invariably returns to us the emotional value we believe we possess. If you suppose you have little worth, when you acquire a lot, you find a way to return to your comfort zone. It's uncomfortable, I admit. Yet, it's the stark reality. And that's why I always say, don't chase more financial resources before you become the person who masters their management. Not out of incompetence, but because you are worthy of keeping what you achieve. And for this to happen, you need to learn to declare to yourself, "I am worthy of prosperity." Repeat this until you internalize the conviction. Because when you embrace this belief, the world begins to interact with you differently. You'll move differently, make different choices, attract varied circumstances. And thus, for the first time, your existence will cease to be a passive outcome, to become an active creation. There comes a moment when an individual finally understands that financial progress isn't something you acquire, but rather something you grant yourself. Most people spend their entire lives fighting, rushing, exhausting themselves trying to obtain what would only manifest after an internal transformation. Financial well-being doesn't first sprout from labor, it emerges from the core of who you are. In my youth, this was the most complex revelation to absorb. I assumed that getting rich was all about physical effort, long hours of work, sweat, exhaustion, and suffering. After all, that's what I'd witnessed since childhood: honest, upright, diligent, committed individuals. With few resources. I would observe my relatives and ponder, if intense hard work were enough, everyone here would be wealthy. And it was only after a long time that I understood the issue never lay in a lack of effort, but rather in the conviction that permeated that dedication. Because to strive hard while feeling insignificant only generates fatigue. What truly creates change is dedicating yourself with your cognition aligned with the future you intend to inhabit. Numerous people wonder why, even after many years of trying, they still don't achieve prosperity. And the solution, in most instances, doesn't lie externally. It resides in a deeply ingrained belief system, often originating from childhood, from parents, educators, painful experiences. I'm not valuable enough, financial resources are risky, if I succeed, someone will suffer, people who get rich change for the worse. These declarations remain stored in the subconscious mind as undeniable facts. And the subconscious exhibits an interesting peculiarity: it doesn't debate with you. It simply complies. If it believes that success exposes you to dangers, it will safeguard you, preserving you in your current situation. For it, inactivity represents tranquility. Neurological science already shows that deeply rooted beliefs create brain schemas that regulate behaviors, emotional reactions, and spontaneous decisions. In other words, it's not enough to rationally understand that advancement is positive, it's essential to perceive it as an intrinsic truth. For this reason, when an individual changes their self-perception, everything else begins to transform alongside it. A being who sees themselves as a winner behaves as such, even before the victory. When I began my studies on the human psyche, I stumbled upon a revelation that would alter my life and that of many millions of others subsequently. You will never obtain more than you believe you are worthy of. Absolutely nothing, not even the smallest detail, enters an individual's life if it doesn't first fit into their own self-concept. And when this understanding manifests, many circumstances change rapidly. I've witnessed individuals who emerged from a stagnation of many years and began a process of expansion in just a few weeks. What was the reason? Because, finally, they removed the internal restriction. At last, they allowed the world to mirror the wealth they intrinsically possessed. It's as if, suddenly, they faced themselves and declared, "Enough. From now on, I take control." I distinctly remember an individual who followed my guidance and, in an initial conversation, confided in me, "Bob, my journey isn't progressing, I feel like there's a barrier." And indeed there was. However, it wasn't a monetary impediment, nor a professional one, it was emotional in nature. She was convinced that success would alienate those she cared about. And whenever she approached an ascent in her life, something intervened and caused her to return to the starting point. By changing that belief, within a period of 6 months, her career accelerated, her financial earnings increased, and, crucially, she preserved the connections that were meaningful. Nothing was lost. And she understood a vital principle: progressing doesn't diminish you, progressing expands you. And perhaps you're wondering, where should I begin? And my answer is simple, but impactful: stop seeking approval from the external environment and start granting it to yourself. No one will look at you and declare, "Now you are worthy of prosperity." That perception needs to arise internally. It is your responsibility to determine that you are already adequate, that you possess merit, that your past narrative doesn't dictate your future, that your roots don't restrict your path. Because when you alter the way you perceive yourself, the cosmos has to readjust. Favorable opportunities, individuals, access, everything begins to manifest because, finally, you stopped hiding. Now, visualize something with me. What if, 1 year from now, you looked back in time and realized that this precise moment represented the crucial shift? What if today's date was the day you finally chose to abandon old beliefs? And what if this day was the one where you declared, with absolute certainty, "I am worthy of prosperity"? What would the configuration of your life be in 12 months? More straightforward? More unburdened? More authentic? Let me propose one final challenge to you, a simple yet revolutionary one: daily, for 30 days, before beginning your activities, declare aloud, "I am worthy. I deserve to progress. My existence is expanding." But don't merely speak the words, feel it. Imagine it. Absorb this truth. For repetition forges conviction. And conviction shapes reality. Your presence here is no accident. Not a single piece of this material reached you by mere coincidence. If something deep within you stirred as you listened, then be aware, a part of you is already prepared for the next stage. And it awaits only your consent. Life doesn't just reward those who merely wish, it rewards those who choose to act. And if you make that resolution today, the entire world can restructure itself based on that determination. Progress isn't found externally. It resides within you. And it has always been there. And so we advance side by side on this journey of relentless self-improvement, understanding more and more that no external change manifests until something changes internally. When you begin to apply these principles consciously, persistently, and with emotional harmony, everything transforms: your way of thinking, your attitudes, your outcomes, and how life responds to you. If this message resonated with you and truly touched your soul, share this video with a valuable individual who deserves to absorb this communication and who, perhaps, is ready to take the next step toward their own full potential. Until next time.